Chasing on a sleepless night. Try to catch me howling at the moon.
The American Dream Mall in East Rutherford, New Jersey, opened in 2019 as the second largest mall in the United States. It features two signature, record-breaking tenants: the Nickelodeon Universe theme park, America's largest indoor theme park and follow-up to the park of the same name at Mall of America, and the DreamWorks water park, America's largest indoor water park. Located just a few miles from Manhattan, the parks at the American Dream Mall have gained a reputation of having New York City level pricing, with an all-access pass costing up to $79 at Nickelodeon Universe and $99 at DreamWorks Water Park. And ever since the American Dream Mall opened in 2019, one question has persisted for both locals, tourists, and thrill seekers alike. Are these indoor parks really worth the premium ticket prices they charge? Well, in January of 2023, I had the chance to spend a day at both Nickelodeon Universe and DreamWorks Water Park. And in this video, I'll be giving my review of them, as well as evaluating whether these parks give you ample bang for your buck. Now, full transparency here before we begin. American Dream was kind enough to invite me out to check out both of their parks free of charge. But we have integrity on this channel, so I'll be giving a fair review of each of the parks, their respective attractions, and how I think you can squeeze the most value out of a visit to American Dream. But before we begin, I wanted to share that I just released my own strategic theme park guide. This is a collection of different strategies and concepts that I've developed in my 15 years of visiting theme parks. And it's full of practical tips that you can implement into your own park visit to ensure a smooth and successful day. The guide covers a wide variety of topics, ranging from as simple as how to save money and get the best deal on a ticket, to as complex as how ride capacity can affect lines throughout the day. If you have a theme park trip coming up and you're seeking more guidance, go download my theme park guide in the description. And for a limited time, using code YT23 at checkout will get you 23% off your copy. Let's begin our review of the Nickelodeon Universe theme park with a quick lightning round on the park's 5 roller coasters. Nickelodeon Slime Streak is a Chance Rides family coaster and a great little ride. It's got good pacing and a couple of really fun airtime hills. But the best part of this ride is the connective energy it brings to the park. Nickelodeon Universe doesn't really have the best atmosphere, which we'll touch on later, but Slime Streak is the one redeeming factor in that category. It ties the park together very nicely and just brings a nice energy to it. Timmy's Half-Pipe Havoc is an intimate half-pipe coaster which is a ton of fun and a perfect fit for an indoor park like this. The Shredder is a Gerstlauer spinning coaster and one half of the tandem of intertwined coasters along with Shellraiser. This is the larger version of the spinning coaster model and has elements that are more drawn out compared to the smaller models. The absence of tighter elements and transitions leads to less spinning, which in my opinion makes this inferior to the other coasters of this model, but it's still a fun ride. TMNT Shellraiser is the record-breaking Gerstlauer Infinity coaster, the other half of the two intertwined coasters, and Nickelodeon Universe's marquee attraction. It has the steepest drop of any roller coaster in the world with an angle of descent of 121.5 degrees, and also features a 0 to 62 mile per hour launch in just 2 seconds. This is one of the most visually intimidating coasters out there, taking you up vertically 141 feet into a special section of the ceiling and suspending you up there for a long time before dropping you down 31.5 degrees beyond vertical. While there's no denying its visual prowess, there are a lot of mixed opinions on this coaster. Some call it a top 25 coaster in the world, while others simply do not like it. And I regret to say I am of the latter opinion. Overly intense coasters are not my thing to begin with, and Shellraiser's intensity teeters the line of being borderline uncomfortable. And it's weird because unlike the other Gerstlauer Infinity coasters, Shellraiser is not a very smooth ride. Some of the inversions are just plain rough, and it also has a bad pothole at the bottom of the first drop that gave me a headache almost instantly. I don't know what it is, but something about this ride is just off. I ride roller coasters all the time, and it's very rare that I run into one that's too much for me. But after just 2 rides on Shellraiser, I was nauseous and just done. Sandy's Bucking Bronco is the park's super unique Intamin multi-launch coaster that was unfortunately closed during my visit. I was aware of that going in as it was listed on their annual maintenance list, but it was still a bummer as this coaster certainly looks the part of the best attraction in the park. And that's a great lead into what has been perhaps the most common gripe about Nickelodeon Universe since it's opened, which is its maintenance and inability to keep rides open. It does not seem like this park ever has all of its marquee attractions available. Now, it could very well just be a case of Nickelodeon Universe being a year-round park that doesn't have an off-season to do maintenance. But I don't know if I can recall anyone I know making a trip to this park and successfully riding all 5 roller coasters. I mean, part of the reason I decided to visit when I did is because 4 of the 5 coasters were open at the time, which seems to be somewhat of a rarity. And when rides do go under maintenance, it's for very long periods of time. I visited in late January, and Sandy's was listed to be under maintenance for 2 months. That is a long time for an annual maintenance checkup. And even then, some of the marquee rides that were open were not operating correctly. For example, Skyline Scream is a rotating drop tower that takes you up 125 feet to the roof, spins you around for a bit giving views of the New York City skyline, and then drops you. When I visited, the rotating aspect of the ride wasn't working. So once you got to the top, only a handful of seats got the view of New York City, while the rest are just staring at the ceiling, kind of defeating the entire purpose of the ride. Seeing that the park is located inside of a shopping mall, I'm sure they try to prioritize having their rides open during the busy shopping seasons, like summer and around Christmas, which is fine, but if you're gonna charge those hefty ticket prices year-round, I think you at least need to make a better effort of having most of your attractions operating. There's one other major flaw of this park which I briefly mentioned before, and that is its atmosphere. First of all, it is just way too dark in there. Only about half of the ceiling is see-through glass, and on a very dreary January day, there was not nearly enough light coming into the park, and the park is just very dull looking to begin with. I am far from the first person to point this out, but the park feels like they took an empty Amazon warehouse, filled it with rides, and then just called it a day. Something about this park's aesthetic is just off, which is kind of baffling to me because in theory, building a park indoors should be much easier than outdoors, considering you have complete control of the entire environment. And it's extra weird because its sister park at Mall of America, which has the same exact owner, does not have this issue at all. It is a beautiful and colorful park that exudes vibrance, despite being housed in a seemingly very similar structure and having a similar collection of rides as the American Dream Park. To me, Nickelodeon Universe at Mall of America was a very clear blueprint on how to build a charming and pleasant looking indoor amusement park, and they just completely missed the mark on that at American Dream. Whether it be lack of light, colors, or greenery, the park just does not look nice. And I think a big reason why the atmosphere of this park suffers is because of the 2 intertwining coasters. Shellraiser and Shredder take up at least a third of the available space in the building, and are completely fenced off from the rest of the park, which kind of shrinks the park and makes it feel a lot smaller than it actually is. And since these 2 rides are secluded from the rest of the park, you don't really feel the intended effect of the interactive element, because they're kind of hard to see from most parts of the park. Not to mention the fact that they're just sitting on concrete with no theming. It feels like when they planned this park, they started with the gimmick of the 2 interacting coasters, and then designed the rest of the park around them, rather than trying to find a way to make those 2 coasters fit cohesively and fit into the energy of the rest of the park. And I think the park's atmosphere really suffers because of this. But now that my 2 major gripes are out of the way, let's talk about some of the things that I liked about Nickelodeon Universe. First of all, I love the park's open entrance and how you descend down into it on the escalators. It leads to a very cool reveal of the park. I also think the LED entrance sign looks great. I also think this is a great park to go to if you're a family with younger kids. There's a big play area for toddlers and quite a few smaller attractions for kids in the preschool to grade school range. That being said, the park does have a fundamental lack of mid-level family attractions. Slime Streak and Shredder have 42 and 44-inch height requirements respectively, but beyond those 2 coasters, virtually every other ride in the park is either a tame children's attraction or a high-intensity thrill ride. I visited during the middle of the week in January, so there was pretty much no one there, so I can't really comment on the park's operations other than the ride operators being very friendly and accommodating. I only ended up spending a couple hours in the park, mostly because there were no lines, but also because while I did enjoy all the coasters outside of Shellraiser, Sandy's is probably the only one I would have a desire to ride a bunch, and therefore I was able to get the park done fairly quickly. I want to give my thoughts on the DreamWorks water park as well, because I actually ended up spending an entire day there. I've been to my fair share of both indoor and outdoor water parks, and I have to say, DreamWorks is up there among the best. The atmosphere of the water park is basically the complete opposite of the theme park. The almost entirely see-through glass roof brought so much natural light into the park, making the vibrant colors of the structures and slides really pop. And this park also has a great collection of slides. They have a great water coaster that winds all around the perimeter of the park. The Madagascar Body Slide Complex is extremely well themed, and home to two of the tallest water slides in North America at 142 feet tall, which are probably the two scariest water slides I have ever been on. Then there's a Shrek theme complex with a couple really fun tube slides, and on top of that there's just a bunch of family and kids attractions scattered throughout each of the complexes. The park just seems to have a really good mix of everything. Like I said, I spent an entire day at the water park without getting bored, and I left pleasantly surprised and very impressed. If you have no personal preference over theme parks or water parks, I would definitely recommend doing DreamWorks over Nickelodeon Universe. I just think it's a much better park, and that's coming from a theme park guy. But let's finally tackle the burning question. Are these parks worth their price of admission? And let's first break down what they'll cost you. Nickelodeon Universe is free to enter and walk around in, and offers a couple options for ride passes. An all-access pass currently ranges from between $59 on non-peak days to as much as $79 on peak days. The park also offers a Twilight ticket, which is valid for the last 2 hours of park operation for either $49 or $55. They also recently introduced a points pass, which is essentially a pay-per-ride system. The smaller attractions cost 3 points per ride, while larger attractions cost 6 points. When I first recorded this video, that broke down to $5 for smaller attractions and $10 for larger attractions. But since then, the pricing has increased to $7 and $12 per ride. I'm not sure if this price increase is seasonal or permanent, but those are the ranges you can currently expect to pay per ride with the points pass. DreamWorks pricing is more straightforward. An all-access pass is required for park entry and ranges from between $79 on non-peak days and up to $99 on peak days. They also offer a Twilight ticket for the last 2 hours of operation for either $49 or $59. Whether you're a local New Yorker looking for a getaway from the city, or a thrill-seeking tourist considering adding American Dream to your New York itinerary, I can confidently say that one day is all you're gonna need to fully experience both of these parks. Nickelodeon Universe usually stays open a couple hours after DreamWorks closes, which I'm sure is strategic on their part, but it makes it very manageable to do both parks in a day and get your money's worth, especially on a non-peak day. I think the most ideal American Dream park-going itinerary looks something like this. Bite the bullet and get an all-access pass to DreamWorks. Although it's $20 more expensive than Nickelodeon Universe, there's just way more to explore, and in my opinion, it's a much better value park. Once you're finished at DreamWorks, head over to Nickelodeon Universe. If you purchase the largest points pass, you can go on 6 smaller rides or 3 larger rides. And if you think you want to ride more than that, go for the Twilight Pass instead for the extra $20, which gives you 2 hours to ride as much as you want and is more than enough time to experience the park. Of course, try to visit on a non-peak day to save money and avoid any lines, but I think that's a very reasonable and effective way to have a full day and experience both parks for as little as $110 a person. So what is my final verdict on the parks at American Dream? I think Nickelodeon Universe has a good collection of rides, but suffers from maintenance issues and poor ambiance. If I lived in New York, I'd probably pop into Nickelodeon Universe once a year during the off-season to take advantage of that Twilight deal and cure some of my coaster cravings. But I highly doubt that I would purchase an all-access pass at the current pricing. DreamWorks, on the other hand, is a place that I'd want to bring my friends to and plan a full park day around. The park has a great atmosphere and a well-rounded collection of slides. And while it is pricier, I think it's a much better value park. If you're planning on heading to a park anytime soon, don't forget to pick up your copy of my strategic theme park guide. And if you use code YT23, it'll get you 23% off at checkout.